Lovely listeners and watchers, as it turns out, for this special edition YouTube, as well as your normal audio podcast. You are down the red rabbit hole, and I am the goddess of hellfire. Fire. I bring you fire. I don't actually. I'm actually author NV Peacock Still, otherwise known as Nikki. And giggling in the background, as always, is therapist, actress, and comedian Lisa Shepherd. Lisa,
again, you've added more titles onto me.
I know.
I want more each time. Is it because you're in red? So if I'm in blue, if you're like fire, am I like water goddess or something?
Yeah, you could be the water goddess.
I don't know why
that's a bit
water.
sappy, to be honest. I think I'd prefer to be the goddess of hellfire.
I don't know. Water can be pretty dangerous.
Do you think? Oh well, yeah. You can drown in that much water.
It's a quiet, it's a quiet one. So yes, I am the goddess of naughty water.
Okay, that's fair enough. Well, fortunately, we have another goddess with us tonight.
Maybe a slightly better one than water.
An earth
Wind.
goddess.
Wind
goddess, more benevolent than us, hopefully. And that is Andreina Cordani. Andreina, you're here. You're down the rabbit hole with us.
Hello, yes, nice to be here. And yeah, I've decided Goddess of Wind is probably about my vibe.
Okay, we can deal with that.
The beans.
I think we make all together fire, water, and wind makes quite a nice natural disaster. So.
Yeah.
I think we're on to a winner. Maybe not anyone else around us, but we're okay.
All we need is someone else to come in and go, I'm global warming, and that'll set us all off.
Yeah, into a massive debate. Well, we're not here to debate global warming or even myths and legends. We're actually here to talk about true crime meeting thriller fiction. So, I know, as usual. I mean, it's not much of a surprise, is it? That's kind of what the podcast is about. I don't know why I set it up as kind of like, ooh, shock, twist. But no, it's not. So, Andreina, the book that you want to talk about, what is it?
Okay.
What's the summary?
So, my name's Andreina Cordani. I am a writer. I've written 4 books. I'm working on a 5th at the moment. My first novel is called The Girl Who ... And I found out it's actually very important to put the dots in when you're searching on Amazon. Otherwise, you get about 50 other results.
Oh, okay.
Saying So it's always good to include the ... dots or my difficult to spell and remember name. So that's how you find my book. But The Girl Who was my first novel, and it's technically it's a young adult novel, but it was sold as crossover, so it's suitable for adults as well. It's just the characters happen to be teenagers. And the idea for the book came when I was a journalist, and I was working for at the time I was working for Cosmopolitan magazine, and we were all talking about various different news stories in the past, and wondering kind of what happened to the person at the center of that news story. And we were talking about a murder that had taken place like about a decade before at the time, the murders of Lynn and Megan Russell. And the survivor of that attack was Josie Russell, who was 9 years old at the time. And her image just really captured the public imagination. This was when I first started working as a journalist. It was the crime happened in 1996. And I was just starting out in journalism, just at that point when I was reading the papers every day, and it was the first time I followed a crime story so fully and completely, and I just remember thinking what it must be like to be at the heart of that. And then when we were talking about it at Cosmo about a decade later, I thought, God, she's like, at the time she was probably like in her late teens, early 20s. forget the exact date, but the idea that she had grown up with like everybody knowing what she'd been through, and having been like paraded in the press, for want of a better word, you know, as a heroine, as incredibly brave, which of course she was, and you know, kind of almost sanctified by how like wonderful and brave and strong she must be, and how it must be to be brought up like in the center of that, sort of with the whole public thinking that you're some kind of saint and that you never had a bad feeling. Um, and so that became, so my central character in The Girl Who is called Leah. And obviously, like, it's not the same crime because I didn't want to make it the same crime, but it was a girl who witnessed the death of her mother and sister at a young age. She was 7 in this, um, and who then grew up who became part of the media circus when they were sort of tracking down the killer. The killer's caught and sent to prison, but he is also quite young when he's sent to prison, and so he's not convicted of murder and sent to prison for life. He is sent to prison for a shorter period of time, and actually is due out on parole when the story starts. So it was sort of thinking about what happened with Josie Russell, and also combining sort of what happens sometimes when you have young people who kill and who kill when they're in a very bad place, and when they've, you know, like they have got a chaotic lifestyle at home, and no support at home. And so it also deals with like the reputation of the killer as well, and her feelings towards him. And then the third element of it is also, I don't know if I'm putting this particularly well, but the third element of it is that her father, the girl's father, obviously he only has her left in the whole world, and the two of them kind of cleave together. And what he does is he decides he's going to fight against this ever happening to anyone else. So he starts a charity. He campaigns kind of, you know, more support for inner city youth. He opens a secondhand bookshop that they all live in, trying to raise money for this foundation, and just generally devotes himself to kind of fundraising. And so the result of that is that, you know, this girl Leah has to live with her mum and sister's photographs being used in campaign materials. She's making speeches. She's, you know, has a autobiography ghosted by someone. So she's kind of like almost on a treadmill of never being able to forget what happened. And that was just like a mix of a lot of things that were going on in the press at the time. But the Josie Russell, or rather the Lynn and Megan Russell murders, were the thing that sort of started me thinking about that.
And just as a little kind of summary, I guess, for people that don't remember, I actually remember it happening in '96 and the news coverage, but just as a little summary as to the crime, Lynn, Megan and Josie and their dog were out walking in the countryside, you know, a kind of a crime scene you'd never think of.
They were walking home from school.
Yeah,
They
from
were walking home from an
something.
event. Yeah.
They were walking home from a swimming gala,
Mm.
because they had wet swimming towels and things with them, and it was a hot July day. And they lived in a little village in Kent, which is not a million miles away from where I grew up, although I was in the sort of more urban corner of Kent that was on the edge of London. But they were walking home, and someone attacked them. So I think, off the top of my head, what happened is that Lynn and Megan were attacked. Josie, I think Lynn told Josie to run away and get help, but then the killer caught up with her and tied her to a tree and hit her over the head with a hammer. She survived that attack, but her mother and sister didn't survive, and they were killed with a hammer. And then a man called Michael Stone was convicted of of the two murders and of attacking Josie. And Josie was really brave, and she appeared in court, and she had a terrible head injury. So if you were reading the newspapers at the time, you would remember that she used to wear big floppy flowery hats to cover up the fact that she had like her hair cut off to stitch up the injury and to cover the injury itself. And I think, to a certain extent, it was something she used to sort of hide away a little bit as well.
It
But
was
she became known for wearing these hats.
I think it was because there's a couple of different reports as to what kind of went on. I watched a documentary the other day regarding it, and it was really just, I mean, it's harrowing. It's going to be harrowing. I mean, everybody knows that. But the dad was frantic. You know, he didn't know it was only a couple of hours since they were supposed to be there, and he was ringing around hospitals trying to figure out what was going on. And they were, not far from their house when it happened. And again, allegedly, nobody knows really what happened on that day, but a beige car pulled up and a man got out with a claw hammer, demanded money from them, and that wasn't what the only thing that he kind of wanted to do, obviously. And at the time, they thought they were all dead. When the police got there, when they looked at the bodies, they thought all of them were dead, and that's what the dad was told until a little bit later when he was told that Josie actually survived. So you can imagine, and in the interview, he was saying that he actually that in the back of the police car when he thought they were all dead, he had suicidal thoughts. He was thinking, that's it, my whole world's gone. So to actually find out he had one left, so to speak, was probably the only thing that saved him. And the guy killed the dog too.
Yeah.
So
and well, it's a miracle, isn't it? It's a miracle that she survived because of her injuries were so extent. If I remember the court, didn't she? I think she had to write stuff down and use gestures as well because her speech hadn't fully kind of been restored. Yeah, due to the extent of her injuries. So yeah, it must for him, to that absolute horror. And also the one I remember it, this one, but also it is everybody walks their kids home every day. You know what I mean? And that it's completely random. The chances of something completely random like that happening to you, to just choose people, he didn't know them. He had no relationship or anything with them at all. He just picked them out and did that. It is absolutely harrowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's why it sort of struck at the heart of people's consciousness. It was just this normal family going about their business, and it taps into our biggest fears that there is just somebody, a killer, who has no reason to kill. It's just a killer lurking in the bushes, and I think that's part of the thing with it as well, is that because we never know because I think you're going to talk about this a bit later, but because Michael Stone, the guy who was convicted, has always denied doing it. They've never had that closure of knowing why that happened, and I think that's kind of what makes it really hard as well.
Well, it depends on, I suppose, what you do believe. I mean, the prosecutors in the court case said that Michael Stone was a drug addict. They said he was spending £100 a day on drugs. I mean, I can't even spend £100 a day on Vinted. Do you know what I mean? I don't know how they can spend £100 a day on drugs.
You try though.
I'd give it a go.
I probably could.
Maybe.
You'd spend £100 getting your daily shop in Tesco's.
Oh, you and your Tesco bashing.
Just kind of thinking about Tesco's, or just the cost of living. It's not Tesco specifically. They just seem to be the first supermarket that comes to mind. It's just the cost of living, Nick. £100 a day, nothing.
Well, this was back in '96, so £100 went a lot further.
I would have done, you would have been all right. I'd done a month.
So to me, if someone's spending £100 a day on drugs, can they walk? Can they do anything, let alone drive a car and commit a crime? It's kind of beyond me anyway. But that was the prosecutors were basically saying that it was a random attack. He wanted money, and that was, he wanted money for drugs, and that's how he kind of got it. But it's a very odd case. That I think the more I looked into it, the kind of deeper the rabbit hole tends to get with that kind of case.
Yes, definitely. And it was just because Michael Stone was alleged to have confessed through the the wall of his cell or something like that to
Pipe or
the guy in
something.
the cell next to
Mhm.
him.
Mm.
And that was the guy who and it was his testimony that helped to convict Michael Stone rather. And I think, that everything that he said in the confession was everything that the guy who testified said that Michael Stone had said was all in the public domain, so there was no kind of new detail in there. So it's not it's not the strongest thing to kind of go, okay, so you're sitting in a prison cell because you're a criminal, and then you overheard this guy talking.
Well, they
He's
tested
not
it
the
though.
most reliable witness.
They did
They
test it.
they
Yeah.
tested it. They read some Harry
They
Potter
did.
to
I
one
thought of
another
you.
through the
Oh, Lisa would have loved that.
through the. They wouldn't be able to now, though. I don't think. I think they'd have to choose a different novel now. But at
Copyright.
the time, they used
I
Harry
don't think they're
Potter.
sensitive about that in prison communities.
Or if it's going to be evidence they're bringing to court to convict
Yeah,
somebody for murder. But
But
yes,
the
I mean there is another name, isn't there, that has been thrown about in
there
relation.
is.
there
Yeah.
is,
Yeah,
and
which
especially as
is
the guy
quite
that
a
the pipe guy
yeah.
recanted, didn't he? Pipe
Oh, did
man
Yeah.
he?
recanted, yeah,
Yeah,
which
I
meant that
didn't
there
know
was an
that.
appeal. So Michael Stone had an appeal,
Mm,
and that's when they did the whole pipe Harry Potter reading, just to see whether or not he could talk through it. But the defense made some really good points. They said, who would randomly talk through a pipe and confess murder to someone that they don't even know? You'd have
Yeah.
to be bored off your tits.
like a prison confessional.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Forgive me, fellow inmate, for I have sinned. We all have,
yeah.
mate. It's what we're here.
Tap the
Yeah.
pipe 3 times.
It is very, very strange and random, but yeah, apparently the Criminal Cases Review Commission opened the Michael Stone file again in 2023, but I haven't heard anything more since then. But yeah, so that's it's still kind of rumbling on even now,
Yeah.
and Michael Stone's family is still pushing for it, and then, as you said, there was the mysterious confession from Levi Belfield,
Yes.
um, who obviously is a convicted killer and definitely, is capable of it. But there's something odd about that as well.
Well, his girlfriend, who was his girlfriend at the time, said he was with her the whole day. So he
Mm,
couldn't have committed the crime. It was something to do with her birthday, and the only time out of her sight that he was to like hang some balloons or something outside the stable for a horse, and that was
mm,
it. And and she said it really does hurt her to say it, that he had, to not put another crime on him or anything. Because I mean,
mm.
again, Michael Stone was a bad man. He'd been convicted of a lot of things. Levi Belfield, a very bad man.
Also bad man, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
No one is contesting this.
another serial
Yeah.
killer.
Well,
And
it's
I think,
Was it Millie Dowler that
yeah,
Levi Belfield is
and there was
convicted
another
for the
couple,
murder
and
of Millie Dowler?
I think another one was with a hammer as well, which is probably why
Mm,
he's kind of tried to claim this one. But
Mm.
Michael Stone had also attacked people with hammers. So,
Yeah, and he did, one piece of evidence against him was he did habitually have a hammer in his car boot. I'm not entirely sure why but that was just definitely mentioned in the newspaper coverage of like he definitely regularly had a hammer in his car boot, as you do.
mm.
So yeah, he
and
did. He would have had the means, the weapon, but whether he had the motive or not is, I mean, I think it's difficult to say. It just doesn't sound like he was particularly functioning at the time.
Mm.
was that the time of road rage as well? Do you remember when there was a time when road rage became this really big thing and people did have like
Yes,
crowbars in the back of their cars, didn't
yes, I
they? Like
do.
that was a thing.
It
So
was such a weird
maybe,
thing. We were all so
yeah,
terrified that we were going to
yeah,
get road rage attacks.
yeah. This really big thing. So maybe
Mm,
it was around that time that he was worried. I'm trying to think. Well, I mean, there's quite a lot of rubbish in my boot and in my car generally. I'm not sure how harmful it is. There's probably an old sandwich that if you ate would take you down over time.
Salmonella.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Take
If
you
you've
out.
got children,
Take
the
a few
back of your
days.
car is probably like a biological weapon.
Yes.
Mine's it.
If someone comes to me with road rage, I'm just going to throw open the back door. Take this.
Yeah. Have some manky old dairy
Yeah.
triangles.
You're really selling it.
It's true, though. That's what it looks like, to be fair. But
Terrifying.
no hammers. I don't carry a hammer around in the back of the
No,
car.
no.
Yeah.
But I did.
And also, you go.
Oh, I was just going to say, part of the interview with Levi Belfield's girlfriend was just absolutely fascinating from what she saw of him as well. He had like this big long coat, this duster coat that he'd pulled the pocket out to conceal a knife, and used to
Oh,
hang around the backs of alleys down the backs of their. There was like an alley that run from the train station into the estate, and that's
Mm.
where he'd hang around to try and catch women to do whatever he wanted to do. But yeah,
Oh,
I mean, he's a bad man, still very
yeah,
bad man.
yeah.
mm,
That's it. But there is
gosh.
something like bravado about the way he did it. It was about the way he confessed. It's like, yeah, I'll have that one as well, sort of thing. I don't know.
Mm,
I mean, I haven't sat in court on this particular case, so I can't say one way or the other. But it must be really, really hard for Sean Russell and for Josie Russell to kind of have this thing that's rumbling on and on and on, and to not know truly. I mean, I don't know whether I think that Sean certainly believes that it was Michael Stone,
mm,
but from what I vaguely remember him writing in Josie's Journey, the book that he wrote about Josie. But to not have that absolute certainty that the person who did it has been brought to justice must be so hard. I mean, can you tell me anything about how people live with that sort of thing? How would it affect them?
I don't think they really live with it. I mean, there's, with rumination and all the sort of things that you can get stuck on nowadays, and especially with social media and, media coverage of everything, something like
Mm.
that's, it's going to be hard. And in terms of like closure,
mm.
Sean and Josie they don't really have closure for as long as Michael Stone is saying I didn't do it. There's still that
Kind of
doubt.
think there's got to be some DNA, right? If the
There is some
DNA's,
DNA that
yeah,
doesn't belong to Michael Stone that's been found,
yeah.
and nobody knows who it is. And I think that might be why the case was reopened. I don't think it was the Belfield thing. I think it's because there's a new way of testing, or there's been advances in DNA testing, which means that they can look into whose DNA that is. But the thing is, you know, disclaimer of not being an expert, but it does degrade over time, so God knows whether they'll turn anything up. But
But
it
we've
would be such a good
seen.
thing if that could have some kind of conclusion for them, because it's just heartbreaking. It's awful. But I think,
Mm.
I'd like to sort of say that she's, when I was talking about where is she now when we were on this magazine. Oh,
Oh, she's frozen.
Oh, oh no.
what happened there?
Oh,
That's okay. We can hear you. We just can't see you anymore. Sorry,
Okay.
viewers.
No,
yeah.
it just
She's escaped. She escaped the rabbit. Oh no, she's back. We've got her back. Lisa
I
dragged.
very quickly got my sack. I
Yes.
ran out there.
yeah.
I
Oh
grabbed her
yeah.
before she tried to make an exit. I mean, trying to make an exit mid-sentence,
Mm.
Blink
Andreina, that's a
three
new
times for
one.
help.
There's nobody on the other side of that pipe in the prison.
No.
Yes,
And
but
we're
now
not
it's on
going to read you Harry
YouTube.
Potter.
Now we're on YouTube. Your poor hostages can hold up little signs saying help.
Yeah. Yeah,
Help.
you can do the sign. You can do the sign, can't you? The international sign for help. I don't need help, guys. I was just demonstrating that then, by the way.
Hang on, do that again. What's the? I don't.
Isn't that the sign for help?
Is
I
it?
think. I think that's the international sign for help.
Okay, now I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
but that
so.
might also be like the international sign for like F off or something, and it's some jokesters put it about.
Just tell me. You don't need any help. When they come for you, we'll just let you go.
Yeah. Good riddance to you.
When they come for you, we're just going to get you to do a sign to offend them further.
Okay.
Well, as I've said to you, I don't know much in the way of sign language, but I did learn a few things. So I know that this is zombie. I know that this
It
is
looks like Bunny
bit. I
Rabbit.
know bit. So I can say
Uh,
zombie bit you,
Okay.
zombie bit me.
You see, I learned all
that'll
my
come in
sign language
handy.
from Mr. Tumble. So all I can say is hello and pet shop.
I think that is evil. I don't think you can see it in that is evil.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Either
Yeah.
that or someone's on
Or
the phone, please.
phone, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I know the ruder ones too.
Of
A
Anyway,
little
course
sorry,
good
you
this
hand
is
do.
gesture
Of
is all you need.
course you
listening.
do.
So yeah, so we were talking about the kind of I suppose the DNA.
Mhm.
Mm.
So the fact his DNA, Michael Stone, wasn't at the crime scene. Now, if you're going nuts with a hammer, you're going to hit yourself, aren't you? There's going to be something. There's going to be some DNA on the scene, surely. And if they said they found some DNA that wasn't to do with the victims,
Yeah.
but
I
Mm.
then
don't know
again,
if Michael
it,
Stone's DNA was on the scene, but I do know there is some other DNA on the scene that wasn't his.
Yes.
yeah, but it's a public place. So that
Yeah.
could have been someone that had a picnic the other day because DNA can be a bit random, as we've discovered. There's been a lot of cases recently where there's been like transfer DNA and people have been accused of things and being somewhere where they haven't been for a couple of days and they just
Yeah.
touched DNA. They touched something or brushed up against something and dropped a hair or do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's not
Because
always
DNA could be
100%.
anything. You know, like you say, it could be a
Mm.
hair. It could if it's blood, obviously that's different because that means that makes it more likely. But
Mm.
yes, they haven't
Well,
specified what kind of DNA.
and when somebody, because Josie would have needed emergency medical attention in that moment, that then, the crime scene becomes second to saving her life. So there would have
Yeah.
been, they will leave a mess, won't they? The medical team that will come in, the ambulance will have left things as well.
Yeah, in disarray.
Yes.
So yeah, but
So yeah, how does it feel for Josie and for Sean to never have that closure and to, do they want it or do they just think now, do you know what? Just we've moved on. Can we please move on? I did hear in a podcast that I listened to about it that Josie, she'd moved back into their home where she lived before with her mother and her sister and her father, and that she had her mother's horse and that she
Yeah.
now had her mother's horse. And I thought that was lovely because horses are such powerful creatures, particularly for sort of therapy wise. And there will have been this real connection between Lynn and her horse. And I wonder if Josie sort of felt that as well when she was with her mother's
Yeah.
horse.
yeah.
She's a very successful textile artist now.
She is.
So, and the you know what the nice thing is, because as I was saying, she was like media notorious, or famous for all the wrong reasons, etc. The nicest thing is that when I Googled her afresh recently, just before this podcast, the first results that come up is Josie Russell artist and Josie Russell textile artist, and I thought that is actually really nice that it's not that she's not
Victim.
just victim
Yeah.
forever and ever.
Yeah.
So that kind of made me feel a little bit better. But yeah, I think there was some talk about on the magazine at the time about whether we should approach her and see if she wanted to talk about like where she is now and everything. And the general consensus was that nah, she wouldn't really want to talk.
Well, she did give a description of the attacker because that's where that terrifying EFIT that when you Google the case will come up is sort
Yeah,
of bandied around. It does look an awful lot like Michael Stone, but it also does look a wee bit like Battlefield as well.
yeah,
And could be just about any man
yeah.
who
But
is an evil
9-year-old
scumbag.
child with a head injury, I mean, God,
Yeah.
my kids could barely describe me.
But it also it was there was a witness that saw the car speeding away with a quote unquote angry man
Yeah.
driving it. So there was another eyewitness as well that was sort of part of that EFIT.
Mm.
But we are coming to time on this episode
Oh,
now.
God,
So
that's
oh,
good.
I know it's gone quick.
already.
Yep.
I shall
So
step up. Sorry, look how relaxed I was. I was so relaxed. I had rabbit eyes above me instead of ears. I was just just chilling and enjoying our time. Yes, but Andreina, we're going to keep you for a week, so
Oh
make
no.
yourself comfortable. Nikki, we're going to have to get graphics for guests. Now we're visual. It's harder. It's harder to create the image
Should we make
of we're
something really awful for them?
underground in the dark with the worms. But we got a coffee machine. We've still got some fruit and fiber hanging around.
Oh,
It's
nice. I like to stay regular.
it's very quiet. It's very quiet and apart from that, it's very quiet and peaceful down here. So we'll keep you for a week, and we will be back, viewers and listeners, next week to talk a bit more about this case, which I think is called the Chillenden murders, wasn't it? As well,
Yes,
also known as
and
the Chillenden
we,
murders.
we'll
Mm.
talk more about the book as well, and the kind of,
Yes.
I suppose, as a child growing up with that in your background and people knowing every time, the kind of knowledge that every time someone meets you, they might know what happened to you
Yeah.
and
And the
how that
rabbit
affects
holes that you
the
went
rabbit
down to
holes.
kind of
Definitely.
find out,
Yeah.
how that might feel and how you brought that to life. So thank you very much. Please, if you are enjoying the podcast, give us a follow. We are on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and we are now on YouTube as well. You may see us if you so wish. I don't blame anyone if you just want to go back to the just to listening. That's fine. And wherever you are listening, do give us a follow if you're enjoying it. Give us a rating. We'd love that. It means a lot to us to get your support, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for listening. Bye.